Bonnie, I don't understand sign language.
Gossiping about it.
Up a little bit.
Yeah. Closer to.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Beyond Baroque Literary Arts Center. Thank you. And welcome to the Wanda Coleman Theater. My name is Quentin Ring. I am Beyond Baroque's executive director. We're very, very, very excited to have with us tonight Russ Tamblyn, who will be talking about his new book. He'll be in conversation with Pat Thomas. Yes. So we'll get to the program in just a second. Before we get started, I do like to say a few words about Beyond Baroque. First, we think it's very important to begin by acknowledging Beyond Baroque's presence here on Tongva land. We acknowledge the wrong done to indigenous peoples through settler colonialism, violent dispossession of their land, and genocidal practices. And as an arts organization, Beyond Baroque is committed to uplifting indigenous writers, their narratives, and their art. Just to say a few words about Beyond Baroque, I know many of you have been here before, but we are Los Angeles' oldest literary institution. We were founded in 1968, which makes us 56 years old this year. And we have a long history of supporting poets, writers, artists. We do that in a variety of ways. We have free writing workshops twice a week, a Monday night fiction workshop and a Wednesday night poetry workshop. We have individual master classes at least once a month on various subjects and themes in poetry and fiction and nonfiction. And we have a reading and performance series right here in this theater. We have at least 2 or 3 events a week in here, mostly poetry readings and talks, but also programs that span all the literary arts, as well as performance art, film, dance, music, you name it in the arts, there's probably something that we have done in this theater over the years. We also have a bookstore, of course. We do have Russ's book for sale in there. I will really hope everyone picks up a copy. Russ, I think, will be happy to sign. I didn't ask him, but he seems to be willing, so. We have an art gallery as well, which is down here and upstairs, the Mike Kelly Gallery. And of course, we have a garden in the back with receptions. I hope everybody will join us after the show for a little bit of food and drink. We can't do what we do without the support of our members. The arts are not well funded in the United States. And so we really depend on our community to support us. And so if you have the means to do so after you buy a book, please do consider becoming a member of Beyond Baroque. It's $60 is an individual membership, $80 is a dual membership. If you become a member, you get a free Beyond Baroque tote bag. You get free admission to our events if we charge, a discount on our workshops, a discount on our bookstore. And also you help keep events like this for free. You notice we're not charging. It's because of the generosity of our community that lets us do that. So please see Genesis in the bookstore. Or you can do it online as well after the event. So for those of you who are members, thank you very much. I want to thank especially our staff this evening, Eric Alberg, who's running things in the booth. Yes, give it up for Eric. Yvonne Salinas, our programs manager, who really put this program together. Jimmy Vega, our associate director, Genesis Perez, and all of our volunteers as well. They really keep this place going. I just give speeches. So without further ado, I think we should just jump into the program. It's really, really, really an honor to have Russ back here. The Tamblyns are really family here at Beyond Baroque. For many, many years they've been involved. Bonnie and Russ and their daughter Amber as well. And in fact, I think the first time that Pat and Russ met was we had Pat interviewed Amber at an event we had back in 2017, and Russ came, and so this is kind of coming full circle.
We all fell in love that night.
Yeah, it was a good night. It really was. But just to tell you a bit about our guests, Russ Tamblyn is an Academy Award-nominated actor, dancer, choreographer, director, and artist, best known as Riff in the iconic 1961 film West Side Story, and Dr. Jacoby in David Lynch's cult classic television show Twin Peaks, as well as for his contribution to the art, music, and counterculture movements of the 60s. His 8mm films and collage and assemblage art have appeared in numerous exhibitions, including at the Los Angeles Institute of Contemporary Art, the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, and the Getty. Russ is the author of Dancing on the Edge, A Journey of Living, Loving, and Tumbling Through Hollywood. He lives here in Los Angeles. And he's joined tonight by Pat Thomas, who is the author of the books Did It, Jerry Rubin, An American Revolutionary, and Material Wealth, The Personal Archives of Allen Ginsberg, and the co-editor of Grievous Angels, Trout Masks, and American Beauties, 1970s rock and roll photography. So we're going to have a little conversation, and I'm just going to turn it over to Pat and enjoy the show. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I was invited by Beyond Baroque to interview Amber Tamblyn, and I met Bonnie and Russ for the first time, and that I kind of got involved in the early days or mid-period days. This book started about 20 years ago before I even met Russ. I stuck my oar in the water for a little while, got involved in looking at a lot of photographs. This is also the first event that I've done with a bottle of tequila, which I'm quite excited about. So I'm going to take a little poll here. How many people are fans of West Side Story? And how many people are fans of Seven Brides for Seven Brothers? And Tom Thumb. Okay, so this is your lucky night. Those stories are in this book, and since we let you in for free, you're going to buy the book. We're not going to talk about any of that. We're going to talk about the reason why I got attracted to Russ is the late 60s, early 70s in Topanga Canyon with Wallace Berman, Dean Stockwell, the infamous Dennis Hopper, Neil Young. So Russ, of course, had been a child actor, and then he did these musicals. But I believe it was really meeting Wallace Berman that sort of turned your head around and sent you into a visionary, or I should say, art path.
Yes, it was. It was actually by accident that I met him. Well, first of all, I would like to. I would just to give a shout out to my co-writer Sarah Tomlinson, who co-wrote the book. Yeah, with Wallace, I became friends with the writer Henry Miller, and I had a party for him, and at my house in Pacific Palisades, we became friends, and he was staying down at the beach, and Henry. We had the party, and that night of the party, I went into Hollywood to do something, I can't remember, but I ran into my old friend Dean Stockwell, and it was Dean who said, who called me like the next day and said, yeah, I'm coming. He said, hey, is it okay if I bring a couple of friends? And I said, sure. You know, who you bringing? Anybody I know? And he said, and I thought he said Shelley Berman. I thought he said Alice and Shelley Berman. I don't know if you remember who Shelley Berman was, but he was a great comedian who did a phone thing and everything. And I remember I turned to whoever was there and I said, oh my God, I'm a big fan of Shelley Berman's and he's coming to the party. So the night of the party, it was a knock on the door and there was Dean. And there was no Shelley Berman. It was no Alice and Shelley Berman. It was Wallace and Shirley Berman. Well, I thought, who the hell are these people? I had no idea. But they came in, and that was the beginning of my relationship with Wallace, who sort of sat in a corner. He was really quiet, but he gave me a book. And it was a seminar, a book that he wrote, and I remember that the photo on the front of it was a photo of it looked like somebody being with his head over having to sign in with the police, and then there was this beautiful poem that came in and. I can't remember it now, but it was a great poem, and that was my beginning of it. And he said, "Come by anytime." and he lived on Crater Lane then in Hollywood, and he. I went to see him, and he lived up this dead end street. It was like a hill up at the top, and you had to walk up. You couldn't drive up. It was a single street, and he lived in a little shack there. And I went to visit him, and I was living in his big home in Pacific Palisades. Had a swimming pool and 4 bedrooms or 5. I don't remember what it was. It was too many, but and you had to walk up this hill and then take a path to where his little cabin was, or house. It was like a shack, really. But he was living there with his wife Shirley and his son Tosh. And Tosh Berman has been associated here too with the.
I think he was a director here at one point.
Yeah, he was a director.
Yeah.
So I came in, and it was just it was a little one-room shack, and I looked around, and I thought, "Oh my God, this is weird." And, and there was ivy growing down through the ceiling, and I said, "God, Wallace, what do you do when it rains?" And he says, "I watch it."
Wow. Wow.
I thought, okay. That makes sense. So that was my beginning relationship with him, and he became my mentor. And he never told me what to do, but he always came up with one-liners, and he also started introducing me to people to artists and poets like Allen Ginsberg and just a lot of people. And he became my mentor. I just loved that man. He was like a father to me. And okay, I think, did I answer the question?
Yeah, no, you did great. So
Maybe I said too
many of you
much.
probably have not seen it, but Russ, you really got into doing collage, right? Cutting out little things. That was sort of your main medium, if I'm not mistaken.
No, you're right. That was my main
Yeah.
medium. I started doing making collages, and it's still what I do.
Yeah. Those who have been lucky enough to be in the Tamblyn Villa, I might be one of the few here in the room, along with Sarah and a few others. There's an amazing collage in their kitchen that's mind-boggling. And then there's other ones, and I think there's a few sprinkled through the book, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really talk about it too much.
Yeah.
The artwork, it just is what it is. You know, I've been in both the arts of the performing arts, where all the movies and that I did in the plays, and then there's the artwork, the fine art. And I always said that there's the performing arts and the fine arts, and the difference that I always said, at least for me, was that in the performing arts, you do whatever you can to make the audience's head spin. But in the fine arts, you do whatever you can to make your own head spin.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what people think about in the fine arts. It doesn't matter if it's what you think is art, then it's art. Then that's important to you. In the performing arts, of course, you do whatever you can to make everybody happy. And but the fine arts, you make yourself happy. Not even happy, but just satisfied with what you do. And that's what I became more. That's what I became more satisfied in doing.
So I know you were good friends with Dennis Hopper, and he was an art collector. So, and obviously he did a lot of other things, both infamous and famous. But For now, we'll start with your bonding with Dennis over art, because he was, I think, the first person on the West Coast to buy a Warhol. I think by the time he died, he had an incredible art collection right here in Venice.
Incredible, yeah.
Yeah.
He collected. I can tell a story about that. When at one time I went to his house, and he said, "Oh, you got to see these 3 paintings that I just bought." And he showed them to me, you know, and I looked at them all, and I said, "Oh, great, Dennis." And I remember I went home and told my wife or somebody. I said, "Oh my God, I can't believe it." I said, "Dennis has really lost his mind. He's bought these 3 paintings of some artist that that painted
The Campbell soup cans?
soup cans." And I said, "That's crazy. Soup cans, you know? I mean, you know, what's the artist's name? Andy Warhol? You know, he's crazy to do that." And of course, you know, they ended up being an extremely valuable.
I think he paid $100 a piece for
But
them.
Dennis had that amazing quality of seeing art that most people didn't see. But he saw it. He just had an amazing quality about it. And right up to the end, he always picked great artists that nobody knew who the hell they were. But he would buy a painting, and then it'd be worth a
Fortune.
fortune.
If you read interviews with Bob Dylan, a man who seems to have no regrets, the only regret he's ever really admitted to is trading he had a Warhol, and he traded it for a couch. And now he regrets it. Tell us a little bit about Dean Stockwell. You were very close to him. I know both of you, of course, were friends with Neil. One story is, for those who don't know it, after the Gold Rush, which is a song we've all heard, was a screenplay that Dean had written, brought it to Universal Pictures, and they turned it down. But I know you spent a lot of time with Dean through the years.
I lived with him for a while when I broke up with my first wife, or second.
The third is here tonight, folks. I think this one's going to stick.
And actually, my first movie was, if you don't know who Dean Stockwell is, he had a television series. Can't remember the name of it. Bonnie, do you remember? Quantum Leap, that he was on every week. But he did a lot of movies, a lot of great films. And I was in his first movie. He was the star of it, called The Boy with Green Hair. And which was a great film about a boy who's because of the war, and he hates war, and his hair turns green. And it was really interesting. He was with this child star, The Boy with Green Hair. And we were living together up in Laurel Canyon, and we went to the market one day, and we drove down on Hollywood Boulevard, and we stopped at a stoplight, and I looked over, and another car came up next to us, and Dean was driving, and I was in the passenger seat, and I looked over, and this was a kid in the car next to me, and he had green hair. And so I elbowed Dean. I said, "Dean, look at this. Can you believe it?" And we both were staring at him, and he caught us staring at him, and he rolled down the window, and he said, "What's the matter? You've never seen anybody with green hair?" And of course, we drove off, but I didn't have time to tell him that not only did I know somebody who had green hair, but this was the boy who only had green hair. In the beginning, he was the first. So anyway, I loved Dean. He was my brother. And he passed away now, and it was really, really tragic for me. I missed him terribly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on.
Now, you didn't make too many films in this era, but you made a few. I don't want to embarrass you too much here, but the title Satan's Sadist biker film certainly comes to mind, and Scream Free that had Natalie Wood's sister in
Those
it.
were great films.
Okay, all right. Have they made it to the Criterion Collection yet? I'm not sure. Anything at all about making those sort of?
Well, Satan Sadist, I'm one of my favorite films that I absolutely loved
Yeah.
was Marlon Brando's motorcycle movie. Can't remember.
Wild Ones.
The Wild One, yeah. When I saw that, it just knocked me out. I thought that was like just great. I said, I'd love to do a film like that sometime. So I got this offer to do this motorcycle movie, Satan Sadist, and I took it on and did it. And I liked it. I don't know what else to say about it.
That's okay.
It wasn't a great movie. I mean, it was a B movie, but
Yeah.
a lot of people liked it. A lot of people liked a lot of films I did. I've gone to film conventions where people have said, my two favorite movies you did was West Side Story and Satan Sadist. And I always thought, how the hell can they put those two together?
Now, speaking of oddball films, most people have read about, not really seen, is Neil Young's Human Highway, which is you and Neil, Dean Stockwell, right? Dennis Hopper's in it, Devo. Talk a little bit about that particular peculiar.
Well, I think that was one of my, maybe it was even my favorite movie to make. Of course, West Side Story was so big and huge.
Right.
But Human Highway was working with Neil, and I would, when we were making the movie, and I'd say, "What's the plan today?" And he'd say, "The plan is no plan." And that was how he made the movie. And he's a very close friend of mine. I've known him when I moved to Topanga, and I lived up at the top of a dead end street, and he ended up moving next door to me.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to come up and I wasn't interested in music or Neil or anybody, but he used to come up and knock on the door, and my wife would let him in, and he said, "Is it okay if I sit here for a while?" And I said, "Yeah, just that I'm working, so I don't want to be bothered too much." And he would just sit there for like an hour or 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then he was writing a little bit, and I think he wrote, or he began writing, what is it? After the gold rush.
After the gold rush.
And we became great friends, and we did a lot of projects together.
Yeah, you choreographed the Greendale tour, I believe, right? Were there dancers in the Greendale?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that, and we did a lot of projects together. And also we did some, I did one thing I loved, which was we did this one number that he did. You remember, Bonnie, what that was? Where I was his feet?
Yeah. It was a beginning of keep on rocking and roll.
Yeah, Keep on Rocking in the Free
There
World.
was a song before that Neil had written
Yeah.
that people on the street, and you and Neil did.
Yeah, so Neil called me and I came up to San Francisco and we drove around San Francisco filming filming this video. And the song was like, people on the street need a place to come. And so we went around filming, but what we did is that he would that Neil would sing part of the song, and he would sing with the camera on his upper body, and then he would do a dance, and the dance was that I would do, so I was like his legs.
Oh, right.
And it was cut down to the legs. My legs were like going like crazy, and that was it.
What were you?
What were we wearing?
Yeah.
Was that interesting?
Yeah.
I mean, were we in our underwear? I mean, I don't know.
Tuxedos. All in tuxedos.
Oh, we're in tuxedos. Well, I'm sure that wasn't the first time. Okay, more questions.
I gotta say that this particular tequila is very good. Bonnie, you picked out a good one for us. Thank you. So speaking of movies that didn't seem to have a screenplay to go with it, you go to Peru with Dennis Hopper, Chris Christopherson. I'm kind of blanking to film the last movie.
Billy Gray.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, the last movie for Dennis really became the last movie. Dennis had an amazing success, of course, with Easy Rider, and had gotten what seemed to be a blank check from Universal to do the last movie. And by the time it was completed, it was so, for many people, so unwatchable that if you then Google Dennis's career, there's like a 7-year gap. But that was an incredible film. It's even a film within a film. It's a very convoluted plot. But you guys certainly had a good time down there.
Yeah, it was a great idea.
Mhm.
You know, the idea was that see, what was the idea?
Well, the idea, the way I remember it, you've got Peruvian locals, natives, doing a film where they're using wicker. It's like fake film canister, or fake movie cameras. It's all done with like wicker, and that's sort of like almost like a gunfight type thing. And then Dennis, of course, is recording everything that's being said. Chris Christopherson had just written Me and Bobby McGee, and that keeps popping up through the film a little bit. It's sort of like a surrealistic party, definitely drug-fueled and alcohol-fueled, coupled with, in the mountains of Peru, you've got thin air. So that alone is going to make you a little lightheaded.
Yeah, I swore I never wanted to hear that song again. Because in the first draft of it, the film ran for hours and hours and hours, and you couldn't have a film last for that long, and so it was annoying that Chris Christopherson kept singing that song like all through the movie. It kept going over and over and over. I said, "Oh God, please don't sing that song one more time."
Dennis also brought in, because Dennis couldn't figure out how to edit it, he brought in Jodorowsky, who is known for his own bizarre edits. And so there's actually a documentary called American Dreamer just about the making of the last movie that's done at the time. And then more recently, there's a movie called Along for the Ride. So there's 2 documentaries just about the making of the last movie for those of you who want to dig in. In fact, Russ is in Along for the Ride. Satya, Dennis's infamous sidekick.
Uh,
Don't say it.
You don't have to say, don't say it.
all I can tell you about Satya is that Dennis used to hit him over the head with a newspaper and saying, "Shut the fuck up, will you?" So let's not add him in this.
No.
We had very, very little with Dennis.
Right.
He was Dennis's. He was the one that Dennis used to pick on all the time.
Right. Well, see, the nice thing is when you die, which Dennis unfortunately died, Satya can say whatever he wants.
That's right.
You can be a great spin doctor.
But the difference is that I know the truth.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You had a great revival in your career when you popped up on Twin Peaks.
Yes.
Dr. Jacoby, David Lynch. Tell us a little bit about getting into Twin Peaks and meeting David.
Well, Twin Peaks was probably, obviously, I mean, it was my favorite television show to do. And it was, I guess it closed down after a year or so. It wasn't, it didn't continue. But the part of Dr. Jacoby was my favorite part, I think, of anything I've ever done, because Dr. Jacoby was such a strange kind of a figure. And even the second version, when Twin Peaks came back as the something, it came back.
The return
as
of Twin Peaks.
Yeah. Then they made my part even better.
Yeah.
I suddenly became Dr. Amp, and Dr. Amp was this guy who hated society and was making all these crazy statements, which I loved. I thought was incredible.
Didn't you come up with the idea for the 2 colored glasses and the
Yes, I wore a pair of glasses. Actually, when David Lynch asked me to do the part of Dr. Jacoby, and he said he's kind of an eccentric doctor. So I got this idea that I would wear I wanted to wear sunglasses of some kind that would be appropriate for this doctor. And so I thought, well, I'll go down to Main Street.
Boardwalk.
What?
Went to the board.
Yeah, I went to the boardwalk in Venice and went down the boardwalk looking at sunglasses. And I would get the sunglasses and I would hold them up to my eyes and look, and I thought that doesn't quite look right. And then I would get another color of sunglasses that doesn't quite like, and I kept getting down, and I thought, well, it's between a red sunglasses and a blue sunglasses. And so I was looking in the mirror, and I kept going back and forth looking, and I couldn't make up my mind, and I put my glasses up, and I looked, and then suddenly I thought, oh my God, I got the idea. I'll have a red sunglasses and blue sunglasses in the thing. So that's really
Yeah.
where it came from. And when I went and I told David Lynch, and I said, David, I got an idea. I want to wear a glasses with one red lens and one blue lens. And the reason is that the red lens is on the red lens is on the academic side because
Oh, left brain, right brain.
yeah, and the blue lens is actually the blue lens will actually make the lens more important. I don't know what I'm talking about.
That's all right, pal. We're gonna switch over to, the entire Tamblyn clan is quite something. Your brother Larry, of course, was in the Standells.
Yes.
Still does a lot of soundtrack work, I believe, and movie work. Your wonderful wife Bonnie, who's become a close friend of mine, is a great singer-songwriter. Has done a lot of other things, and is also really kind of keeps you, as we've seen tonight, keeps you going. And then, of course, Amber, who's really like a force of nature, right? A poet, a feminist, political activist, actress. So, you've got quite a crew.
She's my boss.
That I'm not surprised. Yeah, it's quite a team, and also your daughter China, right?
In China.
China, who's up in the Bay Area. Yeah. Bonnie, what have we not touched on here? What do you think?
Well, while you're on Amber,
Yeah.
This book has gone through so many.
Yes.
The first iteration, Sarah is the.
Yeah, she brought it all home.
Yeah, she did.
She did.
But the very first one was in Dr. Warren biography, and it was very professorial and just didn't ask David if he could write it in his own voice, and David absolutely write it in your. Started writing in his voice, had it all written, and then he sent the manuscript to Amber threw it, and so we started, right?
Well, in the first version, yeah, of the thing, Amber looked at she read the first version of the book, and she said, "Dad, you can't say this in the book. You got to cut that out, and you got to cut out that and that." And so that was her. That was her contribution to it, was cutting out thing. And she says, if you keep talking about girls that you met, when you were working, and and what you did, eventually everybody's going to know where it's going, where this is going. And so we cut it out.
So
but there's enough in it. Yeah. There's enough in it that.
So one of my big regrets is I had that manuscript.
Yeah.
I marked it up. I gave it back to these guys, and I never saw it again.
Yeah, he knows, and so he said, "You can't cut that out." Yeah. And I have to. The boss says so.
Yeah, I was like, "This is fantastic." Mimi Van Doren is in there, and other lesser known.
I had a great story in there about I don't know if you remember, but there was a television series called wait a minute, what was the name of it? It was with Irish McCalla.
Gina, Queen of the
Jungle. What?
Gina, Queen of the Jungle.
Yeah.
That one.
All right.
And she was this great beauty. I mean, she was this great beauty. And I had a date with her one night, and spent the night with her. And the next day she said, "Listen, I've got to go to Hawaii to do to do a promotion thing." And I spent the night with her. She says, "Can you drive me to the airport?" And I said, "Sure." So I drive her to the airport, and there was a special parking place outside, and there was a red carpet going up to the airplane. And so I went in the airplane, and I was sitting there, and finally they said, "Okay, we're ready to take off." And I said, "Okay, I better get off of here." And Irish said, "Oh," and this guy said, "Oh, why don't you stay on and we'll go to Hawaii?" And so I ended up going to Hawaii. I stayed on the plane, and it was a great story, I thought. So I go to Hawaii, and there was a moment when we in Hawaii when when there was this big dinner party, and we had to and Irish said, "Oh, let's go for a walk on the beach," and we walked on the beach, and went skinny diving in the water. And when we came back out of the water, all of my clothes had been
Stolen, right?
stolen,
Yeah.
and and not only that, but there I was. There I was on Hawaii Beach, naked, with
Sheena of the Jungle.
Sheena the Jungle.
with Sheena of the Jungle. I mean, I thought that was a great story. And Amber said, "No, you can't say that."
So,
Okay, come on, give me another one.
actually, let's talk about Elvis for a minute. That's in the book, but everyone loves Elvis.
Sure.
So tell us the Elvis. You taught Elvis some dance moves, I think, didn't you?
Well, I became friends with Elvis for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons was that he made Jailhouse Rock at MGM Studios, and I was friends with the choreographer Alex Romero. So I became friends with Elvis, and we used to go to movies together. And Elvis would, and by movies I mean we would pull up to the theater, and everybody would pile out and form a line, and then Elvis would come out, and we'd go into the theater and watch the movie. So that was just it was just the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
What, Bonnie? I can't hear you.
How did you? Elvis, you gave him some tips on working his
Oh, I
knees for
did.
Jailhouse Rock.
Yeah, I did while he was doing Jailhouse Rock. He started doing Jailhouse Rock, and I came on the set to say hello to Alex Romero, who was choreographing him, and he and he and he had I went to the set, and and he asked me if I would, he asked me if I would, and I saw Elvis, and I asked him if he would help me, and I said, what? And he said, well, if, just can you take a look at the, and he showed me some scenes and his dancing, and I said, yeah, if you, and I just gave him some tips on his,
Moves.
yeah, and
Mm-hmm. We're gonna, since we're beyond, we're gonna wrap this up in a minute, but let's touch on your association with writers. You're friends with Michael McClure and some of the other writers, Bonnie, Diane DePrima, who I know Amber was also friends with. And so you've always been a big supporter of San Francisco and LA writers. Jack Hirschman, for sure. And Jack died just a few years ago, right? Yeah. So you have a love of spoken word and writing.
I think that's probably my main love
Yeah.
is of poets,
Mm-hmm.
of Jack Hirschman and so many others that that I loved and.
Mm-hmm. So, folks, this is what we're going to do. We're going to give Russ a little break. You're going to go outside. You're going to get some wine and some cookies. You're going to spend some time out there. Then eventually you can line up and buy books, and Russ will sign them. But let's take a good like 15 or 20 minutes here and just chill out. Like I said, there's plenty of free food and drink in the back, and books for sale. And Russ and I are going to relax.
What?
Would you like some coffee?
Oh no, I don't need anything.
Yes, you do. You
I
need
just
some
want to
coffee.
go home.
You can't. You've got to sign books. Let me get you a coffee, okay?
Okay.
Thank